Yo guys, and what is up? Welcome back to another episode in my Battlefield 4 guide. Today is number 2 in the series. Before we start, if you have not seen number 1, the link to that will be in the description below. Make sure you go and check that one out. We were talking about the Assault Kit, a very important kit in the game, but just as important as the Engineer Kit, which is what we're talking about here today. And in the footage in the background, guys, you can see that I'm using the Engineer Kit. I've got a few weapons on showcase. I use the UMP9, which is my favourite PDW by far. It's very good, but I also switch it up and use the PDWR and also the P90 right at the end. So first of all, let's talk about the PDWs as a gun. Personal defense weapons, personally, I love them. They're so good for close quarters and whatnot. When using the Engineer Kit, more times than not will use a PDW, only because the Engineer class is the only gun that the only class that you can use PDWs on. They're so effective, and it kind of sucks sometimes when you have to use Engineer. You have to have a nice close quarter weapon. Yeah, it would be nice to have some slightly longer ones, or if the PDWs were on the likes of the Assault Kit, because the Assault Kit is the ones that were pushing right up. So I personally don't think the PDWs make a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, sure, people in tanks and whatnot in real life can quickly whip them out. They're small, easy to use, and they can have a nice high rate of fire gun to dispose of anyone right in front of them. But as I did mention, PDWs are used for close quarters, and when using the Engineer Kit, if I'm not in a vehicle, I really like to be in close quarters. As you can see in some of this footage in the background here, I'm playing on Rogue, and Rogue is not a good map to be using the Engineer Kit on if you're using a PDW, because there are some quite long distance shooting that you have to do, and with a PDW like the UMP9 you just cannot do that. The Engineer Kit, the PDWs excel in close quarters, and that is when you need to be using them. So for game modes like Rush, the Engineer Kit can work really well. Obviously it doesn't have any team-based gadgets, but with a SMOR and RPG that you can shoot onto the MCOMs, the PDWs and the Engineer Kit works quite effectively for Rush. And when using the Engineer Kit, I always have to have an RPG or the SMOR on. Either one works. I personally prefer the SMOR at the moment, only because that's the one that I've been using. No other reason. They're both about as good as each other. Obviously the RPG's got a little bit of dip, and it does more damage, however. And of course you need another gadget to go along with that. The SMOR, and for me that is the repair tool. It can be used obviously as a friendly weapon. You can heal friendlies and whatnot, heal their vehicles, or if you get into a situation you can actually start blowtorching the opposition vehicles, and it burns really quickly as well. Plus occasionally, if I'm feeling in a bit of a troll mood, you can always run up behind someone and hit them with the old blowtorch. It works very well, and it's always a bit of a laugh when you manage to kill them with it. However, I feel that the main use for the Engineer Kit is when you're in a vehicle. Obviously, it's the only kit in the game that can repair the vehicles. It's got the RPGs. So, whenever I use Engineer, I like to be in a vehicle. Obviously, the footage in the background for you guys is me using infantry to show off the PDWs and whatnot. But whenever I use Engineer, I pretty much have to be in a vehicle, because if I'm running around using infantry, I like to use some of the other kits because they have more beneficial uses for infantry players. So vehicle gameplay for tanks and whatnot, you have to be an Engineer. If you jump into someone's tank as a passenger and you're not an Engineer, you cannot really help them. That's one of my pet hates. When I'm the driver and I have a gunner, that's all good, he's shooting enemies and whatnot, but when we're low and he needs to jump out and repair, he goes, oh, by the way, I'm Assault. I'm just sitting there going, okay, you know, Engineer would be very handy. So Engineer for me, when in a vehicle, is a must. But yeah guys, that wraps up today's episode, where we have talked about the Engineer Kit. I've ran you guys through the Engineer, what I like to do when playing Engineer, and obviously some of my pet hates and my preferences. Hope you guys have learnt a little bit today. Hopefully you can take some of the stuff into your game, and just remember, when you're in a vehicle, Engineer's the way to go, guys. Alright, leave some feedback down below telling me what you've liked about today's episode, what you'd do differently, anything like that. I'd love to hear from you guys. It would mean the world to me. But yeah, leave a like if you've enjoyed today's episode. Next week we'll be talking about the support kit. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. And with that guys, I will see you next week. Peace out. And I will leave you guys here with a very nice, handy dandy 180, spray and pray with the P90 on one of my nemesises for the game. Yes, nemesises, that's a word. And here we go, just absolutely mow him down. Hope you've enjoyed, guys. Peace out.